Good afternoon, our viewers. Good day to all of you from across the world, anywhere in the world. We hope you're having a great day. We are glad to have you here at the Civic Space TV, where we host this show, the Community Show. This Community Show is brought to you by Center for Constitutional Governance in conjunction with Civic Space TV. We talk about issues in communities, issues that affect communities in Uganda. We talk about issues that affect the diverse communities in Uganda. And today we are talking about the Mbale community. As you know, over a month ago, Mbale faced one of arguably its most rainy day or its most flooded day, when floods washed, many things, plants, homes, land, and swept them away. The floods were across the city as well as other parts of Mbale. Today, we want to analyze and look at how the rapid response was carried out. What was the kind of response that was given? Was that response adequate? Was that response timely? And indeed, did that response respond to the needs of the people? And how are the people coping now? To join me in discussing this, we have Orone, James. We also have Okadapao, Simon, and Wamono, Hamza. All these people are based in the communities in Mbale, and therefore they have a very good understanding of the situation that we are discussing today. Allow me hand over the microphone to Orone to introduce himself. Then who will be followed by Simon, and we shall then have Hamza introduce himself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alex, and I thank you for this wonderful platform that you joined. Just like you brought it, on the 30th and 31st and 31st of July and 1st of August, that's when Mbale experienced the worst form of floods that I think had never, for the time I've been living in Mbale, it had never imagined to that extent. The floods came at a night, and people were in asleep.
Maybe James, before you go into the discussion, do you mind introducing yourself? I only mentioned the name. Please tell us who you are and what you do.
So, okay, my name is Kalifani Orone James. I work for Nabura Rural Initiative for Development, abbreviated as NARIDE. It's a community-based organization that is operating in Mbale, but it's also operating in other districts like Taleja, Lambuli, Alsa, and other areas. We do much about emergency response and also responding to issues of SGBV and SRHR, and also respond to issues concerning teenage pregnancies and psychosocial support. We do offer psychosocial support, including WASH, water sanitation and hygiene. We also give the psychosocial support to victimized communities, especially those who may have got into danger of trauma. We do offer such kind of support. So just like I started with my discussion earlier, on 31st and 1st of August, 31st of July and 1st of August, Mbale experienced the worst form of floods that invaded most of the communities along the river banks. These floods did not spare any category of people, including the poor and the rich, the disabled and those who are able. And the floods left, can I say, about 29 people dead. Most of the people who died were innocent travelers who did not actually know what was going on. Amidst that, young boys and girls also lost their lives, especially families which could not save themselves those who were living along the epicenters where the floods emerged. I can give an example in a family in Navigo where it had 3 girls in the house and 1 single mother. We being respondents on SGB Bandesare, this family was living a single motherhood with the 3 girls and herself as a mother. And when these floods came, the mother truly struggled to see that she rescued the lives of the children and herself. But all was in vain. At the last minute, she had rescued the life of the 2, but at the last minute, she could not be in position to hold the 2 children, as one was already washed away with the floods. In the process of struggling to rescue the 2 children, the flood was also eroding her. She was also moving in the water until she was almost now falling in the mainstream, and she had to get a lasting solution to hold a tree. And the process of holding a tree, she released 1 child who was also washed away and was also killed. So she rescued 1 child and herself, and she had to stand on a tree from 3 a.m. up to morning. And you can imagine such a situation. Traumatized, she had lost her dear one. And even herself was yet to lose her life. She failed to concentrate catching the tree. She was also led to lose her life. Also, the flood did not only affect her, but when you look at the entire community where the water passed, up to today, there are marks showing the problem that actually was caused. Like us looking at school-going children, during that time, remember it was a holiday, and children could not spare, could not mind of sparing their scholastic material other than life. Most of them lost all the writing material, including uniform, mattresses, and whatever. So by the time for them they were to go back to school, most of them don't have anything. Remember, during this kind of period, the government and even individuals themselves choose to relocate, displace themselves to other places where they can get refuge. And in that time, we expect an outbreak of gender-based violence because a mother is staying in another family where the man may not be comfortable. And also the girl children who may not be comfortable staying in such families and choose to go and stay elsewhere. In that way, we expect an outbreak of teenage pregnancy. We expect an outbreak of domestic violence. And also school dropout, because this being a 3rd term, remember that we're going for a 3rd term, they were in a holiday of 2nd term. We imagine that the turn-up may not be like as expected. We wanted to have a comprehensive research and have a better result, but I'm very happy that to see that we're on this platform, and I think this platform will give us now a vivid picture that will make us get exactly what is on ground.
Yes. Simon, can we have you introduce yourself too?
Yes, good afternoon, team. This is Simon Peter Okadapao. I work with the Center for Constitutional Governance on a project based in Mbale called Voice and funded by Oxfam. And the main objective of this project is to ensure that local communities are integrated into decision making and the implementation processes within Mbale city. Like my colleague has said, yes, the heavy rains in Mbale city, we had never experienced that kind of magnitude within Mbale and some parts of Kapchor, Sebe, and the entire Elgon region. These rains started on the 30th, like I said, at night at around 10 p.m. and it rained throughout up to around 8 a.m. the next day. And the effects were really very disastrous. It has left behind a very big gap to an extent that very many people lost their lives, and including actually one of my colleagues who worked with me in Ovulamu campaign. We lost also her. She had gone to, I think, to happen at night, and unfortunately, that rain got her there when she was still happening, and when they were coming, going back to their homes. She got when the river Naviyonga had crossed the banks. There were 4 people in the car. So the 2 survived, and then unfortunately, the 2 of them died. And very many other people who have also lost their lives. There was also there was a group of people who were traveling in a van. They were going for introduction in Kawangasi. Unfortunately, when they came, the waters had become too much, and when they tried crossing, the water levels tried overpowered the car. And other people, where we also hear that there was a man who had come from drinking, was drunk. So I think under the influence of alcohol, he got to the carriage, and when trying to cross, the water took him. Yes, Mbale City, in responding to this disaster, the first thing it did was to establish a city command center in Mbale City chambers, where meetings were conducted. Various meetings were conducted with various stakeholders from the office of the Prime Minister, the RCC's office, Mayor's office, Red Cross, Malteser, UNICEF, TPO, World Health Organization, and other organizations came in to conduct these meetings, to forge a way forward in responding to the disasters. The first thing they did was to identify a primary health center, that is Namakwekwe Health Center 3, that acted as an emergency treatment unit for floods victims. And then also at the city, they came up with about four ambulances, and very many volunteers came into play to respond to this emergency, to support in the evacuation of victims and assessment of affected areas. And these assessments continued. It was not a one-day assessment. Volunteers continued assessing the affected areas. And then also in the meetings, they agreed to set up committees that were responsible for handling various issues, like the logistics, the transport, the communication. Each committee was responsible in handling various issues. Like CCG, Center for Constitutional Governance, was part of the information and the data sharing committee, and it was charged with the role of making sure that communities are engaged. They are given information on the magnitude of help of the response that has taken place. We also took part in community shows, radio talk shows, and then community drives, where we're passing information on the disaster, on the magnitude of disaster, and then also what the community can do to ensure that they don't fall victim of disasters. Different OPM and different agencies also provided food and non-food items. For instance, OPM provided, for the first time, in the first place, provided 20,000 kilograms of maize flour and 10,000 kilograms of beans. And then also provided 150 tarpaulins to respond to the, especially targeting the floods victims. Then also, World Health Organization also provided some non-food items, like 1 trauma and 1 cholera kit. That has really been helpful to the victims. And then also other agencies like Navijo Child Support Center provided some 50 mattresses. And then also Uganda Muslim Association also came on ground and provided some food relief like matoke and beans and maize flour. Because OPM also came in, provided some money, though we felt that the money was not enough to get out. This money was targeting fuel. Remember, Mbale City was given, OPM released about 2.6 million shillings for fueling as fuel during the transportation of Mbale, of logistics. That is for Mbale City and the Mbale district. So that 2.6 million was to be divided between Mbale City and the Mbale district. So I remember Mbale City got around 1,265,000 for fuel, and then the rest Mbale district was given also. So we felt, I feel that money was not enough to cater for the fuel. And actually, in general, there has been slow response by government in ensuring victims are given help. And there's a lot that still needs to be done. Though, of course, some other agencies have also helped, but of course, as government should be a biggest player in all this. But now you realize that government, it is other agencies that are coming in to contribute much, and government has contributed less. Of course, there are also organizations that have continued providing psychosocial support towards the families, especially that lost their beloved ones, families that lost property. And we hope that government comes in and really responds to the victims, to the affected people. There are very many people who have been displaced, and up to date have not been resettled. They are still camped. Some people stay in their relatives' place, relatives' homes. Some stay at Good Samaritans' homes. And life is very hard. The economy itself is so hard. And taking care of these dependents, floods dependents is very difficult. So we call upon government to really respond swiftly to ensure that people get their lives back.
Thank you. Yes, can we hear from you, Wamono, Mr. Wamono? Please introduce yourself, yes, and give us a brief about the response. Okay, we shall go back to
Good morning,
okay.
Morning, colleague.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Good morning, colleagues. My name is Hamza Wamono. I work with the Laith Consult International, and also I lead the research team of Mbale, Bududa, under the ACODE. ACODE is Advocates Coalition for Development and Environment, and of course in partnership with the Uganda Local Government Association. I am also the chairman, Local Government Public Accounts Committee, Mbale. I am the resident of Mbale, where these floods happened, and it is really so unfortunate that for the first time Mbale as a city, or even as a district, has succumbed to such unfortunate natural calamities. And although we know that the calamities are God-given, there's nothing really much to talk about that, but also the responsibility of government to ensure that her citizens live a better life, having a social and the well-being of all communities are promoted. That role, to me, I feel it was abdicated by government at that critical moment, and therefore I feel government was absent in terms of responding to the land floods that happened in Mbale city and Mbale district. Like it has been absent, of course, in many parts of Bugisu sub-region, especially Bududa, Namisindwa, Manafa, Bulambula, as we talk now, and of course, Sironko district. So there's nothing much for me that I can praise government for, because really, there's nothing that you can tell a person who has lost his beloved one that, look, we are going to come and give you help and extend help to you, even when you know that yourself you are not sincere. First of all, let's begin examining the statements of the minister, or actually the prime minister, and also the response given by this minister. I think I'm forgetting her position, but Anyakun. The prime minister, while in Mbale city, pledged that the government is going to send an excavator to excavate those victims who had drowned in the river Nabuyonga, which gave a lot of hope to people. But again, and that same moment, she again promised that the police, police Marine and the army are going to come and then dive in water to excavate those people. Then the following morning, I remember on a Monday, Minister Anyakuni, while appearing on NBS TV on the Morning Breeze, she said that the excavator has not reached, but it will reach. She said that the police divers who had been sent did not have the requisite skills to remove people who had drowned in the river. Really, it was such a big embarrassment to the government for us to get to know its nakedness in such a manner. And in the whole of Eastern Uganda, the government of Uganda has provided one excavator which is stationed in the Jinja district to excavate, to help in all the districts in Eastern Uganda. Now I don't know the number. Each time there is a calamity of that nature. That itself shows that the government is absent, to be honest. It is. Because if you can have an excavator in a district where there are no landslides, in a district where there are no floods, in a district where there are no, and then you leave districts like in the Oregon region, Bududa has been prone to landslides every other season of the rain. And as we talk now, there are warning signs that it will. Mnamisindwa, the same case. Bulambuli, Sironko, the same case. Now Kapuchora, Buko, Kwen, and the Mbale has not been so much. It is for the first time that we are seeing this. But if you have an excavator as a government, only one stationed in Jinja, and people get to actually the landslides now occur, and then people get to die in such a manner where government would have actually responded by quickly sending such equipment. I do not think that the government deserves credit for such. These excavators, I know that if government in its wisdom decided that each district should have, I am very, very, very aware that it can provide to a district. That should be the cardinal responsibility of government, to protect citizens and its properties for the welfare of society. I am glad that my colleagues have talked about the help that has been extended by some good Samaritans, and the help that you hear about that the government clamor around to say we have done this and that is largely through the private sector and the other NGOs. Now, those people have no primary responsibility of protecting Ugandans, but they come in a show of solidarity to stand together with the people at a critical moment, at a dying moment, to say now, even when you have died, for us who are still living, we can die with you, although we cannot accept also to be buried at the same moment with you. But they are there. And to me, I think that government should do more to understand really why people die, because I think they are absent. All those politicians you hear about are just there to drum up support and maybe push propaganda, which is unnecessary as we continue to lose Ugandans in such a manner. I can give you a case scenario. Since the landslides of 2010 in Bududa district, which buried over 300 people, and government transferred and said, no, we are now evacuating people from Bududa to Kiryandongo district. And they pledged that they are going to construct over 100,000 housing units. Of that, only, these are now from official government statistics. I have shared this with both the LC5 chairman, 3 of them, the former LC5 chairman of Bududa. This is the Honorable Wilson Watira, was the chairman of LC5 at the time the landslides occurred. Honorable John Baptist Nambeshe now, who is also the current chief whip of the opposition in parliament, and the current LC5 chairman of Bududa as of last week, Mr. Kamoto Asungui. They all allude to the fact that out of close to 100,000 housing units that government pledged to construct for people or victims of landslides who had been shifted to Kiryandongo district, only 150 housing units have been completed. Now, if you have a government, and now we are talking about 12 years ago, 12 years, you can imagine. Now, when will it take for them to finish to settle the people who died, who were shifted to Kiryandongo in 2010, as landslides continue to happen? When the ones that were shifted to Vulambuli district in Bunambutie. They have not even finished settling those people up to now. Now, those people who have not been shifted and settled, yet they are the victims of landslides in those ready warning areas. They keep going back, and those are the people who keep dying again. Now, adding to the current ones, as we talk now, the issue of landslides, the issue of floods in Uganda, it is now like it is becoming a national phenomenon, because now, unlike now in Oregon previously where we used to know, we have seen this now happening in Rwenzori sub-region.
Thank you very much, Wamono. You're going to, you're going to continue with giving us, those updates. The network seems to have not favored you well. And I want to come back to you. Let's begin with Simon. I mean, it's clear that many things went wrong, and it's clear that there is little. Yes, Wamono, we are going to get back to you. Sorry for that. So Simon, it's clear that many things weren't done right by the government and all that. So I'm curious, what is the situation of these people, the victims now, the people who are affected, those ones whose homes were washed away, and those ones who lost their relatives? What is their situation like now?
Now, like I said before, people, the victims are in their need. There are those who are just under the mercy of their relatives. There are those who are under the mercy of good Samaritans. And the people, the victims, are really struggling to make ends meet every day of their lives. And government seems to be silent on this. There are like in Namakwekwe Health Center 3, when you go there right now, the Namakwekwe Health Center 3 was gazetted as a health center for treating victims of floods. But when you go there right now, you will find a very big number of people, but without medicine. And the diseases are spreading. The diarrhea has become too much. And when you go there, there's no medicine. You find that there are very many people who are coming complaining of malaria cases. But at the end of the day, because of the overwhelming numbers, they're not attended to. And then also, government promised to come and pay a visit. Of course, when floods occur, government comes in and responds, trying to show Uganda that there's hope. But after some time, they leave. These people who lost their loved ones, some of them were given money. 5 million, there are families that were given 5 million shillings, but some did not get, and are still calling upon government to come and respond. Money was given in as if in what they call isolation. I think they first look at which family is this one. This person has died, but where does this person come from? Which kind of family? That's when they would go and give money. But the others were not given money, and they're still hoping that that money comes. Even the help itself, generally, the roads are still not passable. Accessing health services, people cannot cross to health facilities because the roads have been cut out, the bridges were washed away by rain. So it has become very difficult to access health services. Schools have begun, but there are some schools that are water washed away. For instance, in the case of Wanale View, that Wanale View is actually at the river bank of Navionga. Also, Mbale Parents Hostel, water's cut away. And from up to date, students have not reported because they don't have, the classes were washed away, their demonstrations were washed away. So there's still those students who have found it difficult to go back to school. Even at primary level, because of the inaccessible roads, children have not gone back to school. They're still staying. Those parents who are wise have relocated their children to other schools. But for instance, up in Wanale, where schools are far away from homesteads, those children are at school, are at home. And we wonder up to when this situation will continue. Like Wamono said, even these politicians, they just like create hope that is not there in people. They will come promise heaven on the earth, but when it comes to implementation, you don't see anything on ground. What people right now need is food and non-food items. People need food and non-food items. People are struggling to get food. And by the way, now the question is, up to when will these relatives keep the victims of floods? That's the question that should be answered.
Yeah.
Because when you're staying in somebody's home, at first can be welcoming, but as day follows the night, the host becomes tired. And there should be alternatives for all this. To this.
Yes, I want to cut you. Yeah, I want to cut you short. I don't know. Did you have? Were you saying some other thing?
Yeah, I was continuing.
Mm-hmm.
And also, these people are lacking hand washing facilities, and this with the time will really lead to spread of cholera. And and then also there's a lot of domestic violence. When people are lacking what to eat, when people are lacking money, when people are lacking facilities, they always transfer that anger to their spouses, and at the end of the day, it leads into domestic violence. So I will leave that at that, and then other panelists also can continue.
Thank you. And like you say, you did this thing of just handouts of 5 million, which actually are not even honored. Many pledges are not honored. It's also not sustainable, just throwing little monies at problems is not necessarily sustainable. How long will that money last? I think it's important to have real solutions from the leadership, sustainable solutions that can work. I want to come to you, James. Do you mind telling us a picture of, giving us a picture of where these people are? Because as in my head, I can imagine if people's homes are also washed away by floods. People are homeless. People have nowhere. Are there some temporary structures? Maybe, Simon sort of, touched it a bit. But I want you to go ahead and update us. Where are people now staying, considering that their homes were washed away? And name it.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate my brother Simon for the sincere response he has made. It is true about what he has just talked about. People are suffering. But just like he has said, there are situations you can see it is quite predicamental in a manner that you look at the immediate solution when it is actually not seen. Because the challenge we have with bodies like government, and including ourselves, we always like to respond to a problem when it is hot. After a short time, we go with our reports, we write down and we call it off. But today, if you went back to the field, you will still see the marks of these floods. And you will still see the people who were suffering before and are still suffering even more. Just like he has rightly said, that if they have hosted you, maybe somebody is hosting you because you're in a kind of emergency. For how long? Others have resorted going for overnights in churches and they stay there. Others have gone on visiting, their relatives here and there. But as NARIDE, together with African Women for Youth, African Women and Youth Action for Development, together with Help Age International, we are working so closely with the communities. As I talk now, the vehicles are offloading assets that are going to distribute as a relief to communities. Like we've identified those who are aged who cannot actually reach themselves with what is supposed to be reached to, like their houses were washed away. So together we bought like 3,000 iron sheets. Each affected household, which is actually potentially affected that they cannot reach themselves with anything, will be given 10 iron sheets. And then also there are about 450 blankets, which are to be distributed to those affected families. We have 450 mattresses that are to be distributed effective today. The buckets, we have about 450. Gel cans, we have 450. Reflector jacket for those who are offering psychosocial support, parasocial workers and whatever, we have 250. Then we have water guards, also 450, which are to be distributed to these people. But I personally, I have been closely in these communities. I have ever visited a family which was really washed away. The house was washed away. And then I told them that we are bringing this, all what I've read here. The lady told me that, my son, what I want is beyond that. That if you gave me all those things, cannot make me forget my children who were washed away. Cannot make me forget my properties that were washed away. You are giving me today, you are not to stay with me, like how my children will stay with me. I got humbled with the situation. Now, that means much as we are giving the hardware, there is need to also offer a software support, which is a psychosocial support. The psychosocial support we need to offer to these people is beyond saying that stay strong. We need to stay with these people. We need to engage them in churches. We need to, do things that can make them slightly forget about the incidences and make them redeem their hope. Today, as I talk now, we've talked about our leadership. Our leadership is quite, I don't know how I can rightly say it, but for them, they are always active after seeing such things being distributed. They also come and join you, confusing the public to think maybe they are the people distributing, but also we appreciate them in one or the other because we don't work independently. We wish to work with these communities. And we may not fully concentrate on their weakness to see that if they're not distributing, we don't also do. As organizations which are set to address community challenges, and I know by the time we came up to say that let's form organizations, we had seen these challenges existing in communities. Therefore, it compels us to see that we address this problem such that we can maybe show the government that they need to do this and the other. Because if we do this I think it will show, it will give them a picture to understand that there is need. Also, looking at the water and sanitation. Remember when these floods came, the water level was too high and it contaminated the water, including the house, the house essentials like mattresses, plates, and whatsoever. Because the water mixed up with the toilets and the feces came out and they were just mixed up. And so the mattresses, even when they could wash them, they could not serve any other purpose. And so much we feel like as like-minded organizations like us you are, it is our cardinal role to see that we amplify the voice of these people and they demand the service they deserve from the rights holder, the duty bearer. Because them being the rights holder, they may not ideally know that they have power to demand for these things. But we cannot start by telling them to demand for their basic needs or their rights. We have to first of all make them redeem hope, make them stay strong. After that point, we can now be in position to say that we stand with them because they are socioeconomically empowered. At that point, they will be ready to move with us to other better level. That's I think what I have to submit as per now. But as the discussion goes on, we shall be adding in other information. Thank you very much.
Now let me come back to you, Wamono, Mr. Wamono. What are there any follow-ups from government, and what do they look like? Are we having people visiting, government officials visiting? Are we having serious assessments being undertaken from government and other entities? Because again, like you rightly said, and many people have said, it will fall under, it is the responsibility of the government. Red Cross, all these other organizations just come and give relief, but they may not be the ones to give long-lasting solutions. So do you see visibility of follow-up from the government? You see people assessing, studying the area, the environment. Are there such steps being undertaken?
I am aware that the district of Mbale and the Mbale City have been engaging in disaster management committee meetings as a district, as a local government. But guess what? Those are indoor meetings. And considering also the structure and the pockets of our local government, the economic conditions of our local governments, they do not have the disaster management fund. Although we know there's a committee in place, but for a longer time, I don't know where else in Uganda, but in Bugisu here, Agile, this local government disaster management committee do not have a fund to address to such challenges, including the meetings that they conduct. Money is just either just got from other votes or it is voluntary. But speaking to the visibility of the central government, I can say that it is zero. Why I say this? Just 4 days ago, NTV went out to follow up on the people who the victims who lost their dear ones, those who were affected, those who are staying in other relatives' place, like my colleagues are saying. You heard, if you watched that news segment, people are claiming, people are crying that since that time, they have not even been seeing any government leader or even a local leader, apart from I think us in the NGO sector, who keep coming all the time, and then we speak to them, we give them hope, we see. But for us, we can't do much. because even what we give out to people is measured. So government largely has not been present to address such issues. And also, you should not forget that our government has been operating an ad hoc kind of interventions to address matters of this magnitude. I can tell you that as we talk now, they do not have even a disaster management model on how they can respond to a disaster. Apart from them every financial year putting money that this will come, but for a place like Orone region, our meteorologists had predicted much earlier that guess what? Orone zone is going to have a very, very high rainfall, which may also be followed up by landslides and floods. For the first time, I credit the meteorological station for doing that. Now, what does that mean? If a government institution charged with the responsibility of predicting and forecasting weather has done that much earlier, government would have actually started from planning at a level of how do they now address in case the predictions of the meteorological station becomes right. Before these floods happened in Mbale city, there were stormy winds in Namabasa and Nakaloke, which had happened, I think, in February. The one happened in February, and then after 2 months again, it happened again. I was chanced to go and visit the victims of such people. And you are aware, I think, even New Vision ran a story of such happenings. Now, we are talking about the victims of floods. We are forgetting about those people also, because there are also people who have been affected by the same natural calamities. And their roofs were swept away, their houses were broken. Now, combined with the floods now, I am now really trying to figure out the situation that those people are living in. So the role of government in this place would have been that, one, if we cannot shift you to another place, then let's give you enough money commensurate to the price of land where you would want to, you yourself as a victim, to vacate and settle your family there. Apart from us relying on how to with no level, like you put it, it is not sustainable. Let's get 20, 50 million as government, and we say, Wamono, we know that we have predicted, we are predicting that the situation or the place you are occupying now is prone to the disasters, like they have been predicting in the most parts of Orone zone here. Then we are giving you this money in order to save you from the calamities that would follow, to kill your people, your animals, and so forth. But we are giving you this money. You look for a suitable place where you can buy land, a piece of land, and settle. But in the meantime, you retain your land because it is an ancestral land where you have been living for purposes only of not staying there, but of cultivating your crops and so forth, or maybe burying your relatives, so you bury your side, something of that nature. Now, and we see whether these people will refuse to vacate those places and say, no, let's stay here, and death comes. But for now, government is also now arm twisted. It can't enforce much. Why? Because there's no reason no reason to enforce. They lack a moral ground to say, you people leave this place. Why? Because they have not facilitated them to leave the places which are prone to landslide, so floods. So I'm appealing to government to take that route. Secondly, for the government to be visible enough, they should come on the ground, engage all people, all sorts of stakeholders, as the CSOs, the religious community, the local government leaders, including the potential, not only victims, but the potential or candidates of these landslides, so floods. And they ask for a solution, because the best solution is not top bottom. Best solutions is bottom up, as we embraced decentralization, which of course is also winning away. Now, I am saying this. Why? Because each time these calamities happen, we have seen people coming from Kampala for purposes of accountability. They fly in good choppers, they run in the V8 vehicles and so forth, for, which is also another avenue of them fleecing government money. But to come and say, you see, government is concerned, the president has expressed condolences, those things are now no longer helping. If we are to build a sustainable solution for such people, for such occurrences, for our regions, not only here in Erigon, but the whole country, because I've seen in Rwenzori, I've seen in there, this happening in now Bukedea, which has never. Now, the ripple effects of Erigon, by the way, is that all these places in Bukedea, Soroti, where then you talk of Bukedi sub-region, Tororo, Butaleja, Budaka, Chibuku, Palisa, Butevo, those districts, all of them are low-lying or are low lands. Now, the effects of floods and landslides in Erigon region, each time it happens, those people are at the receiving point, because all these rivers that we talk about, they flow from Erigon, Mount Erigon, going down to those places that we are talking, Lake Choga and so forth and so forth. Now, if we are to address Erigon region, we shouldn't only address Erigon alone. Let's also look at the trickle-down effects, the areas which are below Erigon region, like Bukedea district, which has been also crying over the same because of the floods coming from Mount Erigon, Budaka, and the very many other, Budaka, Butebo, Palisa, and the other districts. So for me, as Hamza Wamono, I think government has been operating in any ad hoc kind of intervention for purposes of staging shows to be visible enough, at times of crying, but not at times of addressing sustainable solutions. Because I have participated myself in very, very many engagements from 2010 about these natural calamities, where government and local governments have met and then discussed and forged the way forward. But guess what? If we have not finalized settling 500 people, 500 households, by the way, 500, you can imagine, households were to be shifted and taken to Kiriandongo 12 years ago. If our government has failed that, then tell me whether government will continue having these kinds of interventions in a sustainable manner, and yet they keep adding each year. By the way, we are talking about Mbale, like I said, but we are forgetting that as we talk on now, the victims of Bududa in Bushika last year, Bushika landslides, which buried our people in Bududa district, and also in Bukarasi. Those people are still staying in schools like Bulucheke, SS in Bududa, They are still staying in neighborhoods. They are still staying in a town council, headquarters of Nangoko, town council. Government is silent on that. I have seen members of parliament moving from this region, moving motions in parliament over and over and over before these land floods of Mbale about the plight of their people. But government is silent on that. But now they wait. I think death in Uganda of late is becoming an opportunity for making money. But I think my colleagues, as they said, for us to build a resilient and sustainable intervention, we should not leave this work for government alone. I am now starting to get worried that government cannot help me to address to enjoy my constitutional right, to feel that I'm a Ugandan. So I've spoken this to other local leaders. Last time, 2 weeks ago, I was with His Worship, the Mayor of Mbale City here, and we were sharing, of course, about how far these people have been helped. But local governments do not have money. In fact, all those contributions that you see government, local leaders coming with are from their own pockets for purposes of campaigning and what. But they are just some sort of immediate needs of that day. Food, because if you are given 100,000 from me as a local leader, a local politician, and yet I have problems like my brother Orone was saying, it can't wash away the fact that I have lost land, I have lost my animals, I've lost household items, I've lost a house, I've lost my beloved one. My landlord where I am staying now, in 2 years ago, when these landslides happened in Bushika sub-county in Bududa district, all his ancestral land was washed away and just bare rocks now. And they told him, you leave this place for good. Now, he has left the place, but they have not given him a place where to sit, a place where to stay, a place where his father, his mother, his siblings have been occupying for decades. It is not there. So that speaks volumes of how devastating these occurrences have been happening. And now, focus is now being shifted from the calamities themselves to the absent role of government in addressing such. Because if I have lost, I will also look at government and say, government, where are you? It is the duty of government to say to such people, and we shouldn't just take this for granted and maybe sugarcoat it. I am a human rights activist. I agree, of course, with those who say they want to sue government. I agree, I shared this with the DPC of Mbale, that it is true, you people, you were absent on the job. I've shared this with the senior police officers, that the time that the floods happened in Mbale city, for instance, where we have CCTV cameras placed on the roads, where we have a full-fledged department of police on the CCTV cameras at Mbale Central Police Station, where I have gone and seen myself that they work. What was wrong with them to say no? We have started seeing the water levels submerging the roads. So the road users, please desist from this, from using these roads. And they come and put roadblocks to safeguard our people who died in those floods. Two, after it happened, one senior police officer whom I cannot name told me that there is a bus which successfully passed Nabuyonga Bridge, which was, of course, a death point for all those people who died. And it successfully went with a lot of people who were loaded in the bus. Full. Now they were telling us, actually telling me, that you see, government has instructed us to identify that bus. Why did it have to pass when people are dying in the river? You can see that kind of. So they are looking at post-mortem, not preventive mechanisms. In disaster management, we should be looking at how best we can prevent, not to respond to those who have died, but how best can we prevent so that we mitigate these measures. To me, I wrote, I was sharing with the LC5 chairman of Mbale, and I told him, look, you should put the following in place. Now, for the case of Mbale City, do the following. Your roads, Mbale has the best town, by the way, in terms of planning, which were planned long ago by the colonialists. But our people who have been now employed as Ugandans, as our local citizens here to manage the affairs in the local government, have done a very, very good job to disorganize the city. They have sold all places which were places like, actually the drainage areas, all the drainage systems are blocked. All the roads are leading to these places have been sold, and then people have erected buildings without even plans. Now, if we can look at that, the origin of that, because if you have a drainage system which is blocked in the city, whose purpose is to allow the smooth flow of water, of floods, if they come, and take it to where it has to go, then what are you thinking really? To me, I said, these floods in Mbale City offered a very, very good opportunity for the local leaders, first of all, to collect themselves and see, look, we have now got a city. Previously, we were a municipal council. Now we have a city. Now these things have happened because of our injustice that we have done to disorganize the city. Now, let's desilt the drainages, let's open trenches, let's dig wider channels like the one of Nachivubo and so forth, so that we plan in the future for such occurrences to happen, that in case they do happen, the ripple effects will not be as much as we have seen. They will be there, yes, but they will be at a minimal cost. Now, our people are not looking at us as such. Those are preventive mechanisms. They are less costly compared to giving everybody 5 million, whoever has lost his belongings, his wife, his child, his relative. For how long are we going to continue doing that if the minor things that we would have looked at, like those ones, having our better planning towns, we plan government to say, no, this time, no. When you look at Section 3 of the Physical Planning Act 2010, it tells you that the whole of Uganda is a planning area. Now, when you look at such, and also our national urban policy, if we have people like, if we have laws and regulations and the policies guiding our development, what is bad with the central government to make directives to its civil servants to address issues to do with development in a better and planned way, following the laws that the government has put in place? I think, to me, that is the best starting point, because I am now afraid was whether government will continue giving handouts for appeasement to the victims whose lives have lost, whose properties they have lost. I am afraid to that, to be honest. So for me, I encourage brothers that as we try to build a very strong voice to counter such kind of weaknesses, arrogance, and also negligence of our civil servants and public officers, we would first have to understand the challenges where they come from, not only looking at those who have died, but where is the genesis of this problem?
Okay, thank you very much.
I think
Mm.
That's what I can offer as a contribution to this debate.
Thank you very much, Wamono. So, and we're going into our final round. I want to ask, yes, we're going to begin with you, James, and Mike. Yeah, you could react to some of the things that have been raised by all the colleagues here, including the immediate previous speaker. I also want to ask, maybe we should also talk about climate change. You know, don't we think it's high time now to seriously tackle the climate change question? We know that these floods are largely affected by, you know, what is happening to the environment, you know, and the effects of climate change. Don't we think it's now important to, in the bid to think about sustainable response mechanisms, to also think about measures that can sort of mitigate the effects of climate change, perhaps, you know, concentrating more on green, you know, also increasing the number of forest cover in the affected areas, because we know that trees are water breakers and wind breakers. In the story that was shared, you said that a lady clung on a tree, and that's how she saved her life and the life of one of her children. So is it high time now that we talk about the environment? And please give us some of those solutions that are environment friendly, that promote a better environment, that also mitigate climate change, that can be used to as a sustainable response to this issue of floods. Over to you, James. Then we shall have Simon and Wamono will conclude. Please, in 3 minutes, let's each one 3 minutes. Okay. Let's address this. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, my brother. I'm very thankful for the presentation that you've really made. I want to be very honest with you that when this emergency occurred, we became very restless. We're looking at what is really causing this, and why is it that it has been occurring but there has been no action taken? Where is the origin of this? Upon our movement along those river banks, we realized that the rivers themselves have a lot of meanders, and these meanders, you remember that the rivers are already silted, the river banks are encroached, and when the river banks are encroached, I think there's no demarcation and legalization of the river banks, that maybe the river bank is a reserve and therefore nobody should own it other than the government. The government did not play a cardinal role to see that they demarcate the river banks such that nobody else is supposed to encroach them. Or if it's to encroach them, which activity is river friendly that should be done along these river banks? So when we met the environment office, we actually appreciated our effort and acknowledged that really what we are saying is very true. And we were asking for the lasting solution to the existing problem. When we sat together with them, they politely told us that they're going to do a budget, and that budget is going to be presented. Time and again, I have gone back to their office asking for how far they've gone with this. The only some little question I can simply get from them is, have you somehow mobilized some money to see that we push it to this level? I was like, no,
Let's first finish up with the issue of budget. If we put the budget on the forefront, let's table it there. Before we even do any activity on the river banks, have you taken a step to demarcate and gazette the river banks such that nobody is supposed to encroach in? And if like nobody is encroaching the river banks, which activity are we going to have on these river banks? Because should you leave the land there and there's no activity going on, trust me that somebody will come and do activity somewhere. Somebody will come and exercise an activity there. So we said about 2-3 things are required. One, we agreed with the environment team under NEMA, and we said there is need, first of all, to straighten the rivers, deseed the river, and also get grass and tree which are friendly to the river. We plant the trees along the river, trees that can make the riverbank firm to avoid future bursting. Because if you can actually take your time and move along these rivers, you realize that the problem that is causing this flooding is just the meanders and the encroachers. Remember, encroachers suffered, yes, but the innocent travelers died. The innocent travelers who don't know much about this died that way. Like our friend has said, if there are CCTV cameras and there's somebody who is sitting on the CCTV surveillance cameras for 24 hours, then why did this happen? And who took the initiative to alert the community? And to which level? Because I was one time told that there was a traffic officer who was there stopping people, and whoever could resist, he could allow that person go and die. But I don't have much evidence about that, but that's the information I had. Because it was just a hearsay, I not so much dwell on it, because even the person telling me didn't have information. Now, our concern was and is, as NGOs, like-minded NGOs who are here to address issues that are affecting communities. Personally, as NARIDE, I have even encroached under our platform. I've given in the suggestion under the Mbale Disaster Management Forum. I gave in our suggestion that if it is possible, then they should use small organizations like us, do the community mobilization. Communities who are suffering from this problem can also turn up and we join hands together to see that we facilitate them. We can lobby for facilitation and do the desilting at our local level. Then maybe the government cannot see what we are doing and find themselves guilty and join our hands. Because, like our friend has said, that the government most times is waiting for an emergency, then they respond. But remember that every other time we have such an emergency, we have lost someone who we may not recover his or her life. Many families have been displaced. Mind you, if you have been having your small home, whichever small it may be, and then you are displaced to be in another one's home, you are under captivity. You don't have a decision in that home. You are fed like you're a prisoner. Actually, that is more prisoner. So in that kind of situation, if you have children who are studying, do you expect them to proceed? Do you think their minds are still fresh to proceed with their academic affairs? And at the same time, your wife will see as a person who doesn't think ahead, and so the domestic violence will also emerge. This problem we are talking about are not just coming. My brother Simon, I remember sharing something with you about the current activity also which is happening here in Mbale about the ACODE. You know, we have not talked about this, but I want to frame it rightly that this program came at a time of holidays where young girls and boys were not regulated to participate in this activity. And the boys and girls dance from day to night. And when you look at the nature of the dances, you know, there are these ones who just join along the way, who don't know the cultural norms and practices. In the process of joining, they are obsessed and they participate in activities that put the lives of the others at danger. They have those practices that undermines the rights of the other. Now, as a platform like we are on this platform here, I believe it is our right, our fundamental rights to say that we do away with things that do not favor the rights of the other. And this cannot be one man's effort. And we are not here to fight culture. We are not here to fight what? Anything. But
we are looking at these people who may not be having the cultural norms, who are joining the ACODE team, who are not well informed of the do's and the don'ts, who go on raping, who go on killing, because even we have evidence that one person was killed along somewhere in Namakwekwe, I think Namakwekwe, Kikindu there. And there are those who even stop borders from crossing. If you cross, they beat you up. So if not beating you up, they beat the passenger. Now, in that kind of a situation, I think those are not the original norms, because ACODE has not started today. It has been there for some time. Back to the point of the river. Me alone, I may not have an upper voice to speak about this river and get a lasting solution. Equally, the government, if our brother has said that they pledged 100,000 houses to be constructed for these households, and as for now 150, then it is in piecemeal. To me, I strongly agree that we as civil society, if we sit down, we have a hand to raise and cause a change in the communities that we live. Then the government, like as usual, will come and appreciate our effort. We are not doing this to make the government happy, but we are doing this to serve the communities that we feel that they are disadvantaged. These disadvantaged communities, they are not doing this at their own will. I'll remind you one thing, that when you go to the river banks, the households along the river banks, people who are occupying them, these are people who are, can I say, slightly vulnerable, in a manner that others are single mothers, others are these girls who were dumped there by their ones, they go and rent there and then they're pregnant and live there. They live that kind of traumatized life. Others are renting, by the way, like the lady who lost the children was actually renting in that place, because she left all these houses to rent. She went and rented there because it was cheaper for her to go and rent there. At the end of the day, she harvested that kind of a problem. Now, what should we do to families? I mean, I think Mr. Musiime, Alex, this question I may channel it to you, then you address it to the right person amongst my fellow participants. Families have been affected. Reliefs have been given to many. But like I told you in the beginning, that one of the elder women I met there told me, thank you for all what you've given us. But what about my children? I mean, what about my properties I lost? What about my home? Because she's housed somewhere. You see, so those are questions that can make you really have a heavy breath and fail to give a sincere answer.
Thank you.
Why am
very much, James. Please, in 10 seconds.
Yeah, okay, let me finalize. What I can maybe suggest amongst ourselves, let us not stop here today. As we have started it, in fact, you have scratched the old wounds. We are almost now bleeding internally because we were on the scene. We saw what actually happened, and we were trying to do our best, but because of our resource envelope, as individuals, we can't make as small organizations. Now that we have international organizations, we have national organizations, as we address about their rights, there's something missing. What we have to first do, psychosocial support. Let us first empower these people. You know, when you are not empowered, you have no right.
Thank you very much, James, for that submission. Over to you, Simon.
Yes, me on the issue of the climate change, I will focus basically on 2 or 3 things. One is on the issue of wetlands. Actually now, government has really developed a very bad practice, really not paying attention to the environment needs within this country. Even here in Mbale, government has started allocating land to wetland to private investors. For instance, Mbale Industrial Park that industrial park is really seated on a wetland. And when these floods occurred, it affected the industrial park. The whole industrial park was swallowed into water. And you ask yourself, what is the role of government? What is the intention of government in all this? You realize this is a wetland, but you can give an investor to develop. And then also even within the city and the district, there are people who we call big shots, who have also started constructing in wetlands. They first start by dumping maram, slowly in form of as if they want maybe to pave a road. They start dumping maram as if they want to pave a road. But after some time, they start developing wetlands. So what would you expect when floods occur? Nature calls. And then also a lot of human activity there's also a lot of human activity on river banks. People have started farming up to the river banks. Initially, there were shrubs that were on the river banks, and actually this would help at least to control the water volumes. But nowadays, people farm up to the river banks, and when it rains, there's nothing that holds water. So water just comes by force and sweeps away the river banks. And then also I think also this authority, the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, at times sleeps. They only wake up when there's an occurrence. But I wish they would always keep updating the public on the weather forecast routinely. That would have been very much better. So I would really call upon communities and individuals, of course, to pay attention to these weather changes and also respect nature. When they tell you that is a wetland, it should be a wetland and leave it for other purposes. Do not plant trees up to the river banks. And then also do not settle in the river banks. And right now as CCG, we want to come up with a tree planting campaign in Mbale city. We have already engaged the diocese of Mbale to ensure that we identify a day. We gazette some days so that we can plant trees. And I think our major focus will now shift to these river banks. So that is my take on the climate change.
Thank you very much, Simon, and thank you, CCG, for that initiative. Wamono, in just 1 minute, considering you spoke longer the other time, in just 1 minute, please make your final remarks.
My final remarks goes to the people of Mbale City. And the Mbale City, why? Because it is a new city, it is still young. Therefore, the officials there should desist from old practices of thinking for themselves, but they should also think for the better of our people. Why do I say so? Is because somebody talked about planting trees and so forth as one of the interventions to address climate change. But we have seen tendencies of officials in the city led by the environmental officer herself to cut down the muvule trees which were planted by Semei Kakunguru. Can you imagine? Semei Kakunguru, who came all the way and planted these trees long ago before they were even born, these people working here. And then somebody wakes up in the morning and says this tree has grown old and then it is now a danger to human life. And then they cut it. But we all know how much a Mvule tree costs. They are talking about 10 million, 15 million. That's what they are selling. And then when they cut, they are not replacing. Now, if such a habit is being done by officials, how about me, a lay person down here who also has mine, and I should also get money out of it. So that is, to me, one of the areas that they should also focus, considering that as they wait for government to fly in the chopper to come, what has our local leaders here and institutions done to protect, now that we have now been tested by these floods and so forth? What have we done to look at that? And lastly, I think we should also be cognizant of the fact that you can't cheat nature and then you get away with it. Our people, many of them have polluted the environment to the extent beyond human recognition. But they are happy with that, by the way. So if we can also check our human activities, how we interact with the environment that we are living in, then that will also be better. If we know that if you can annoy me and I get annoyed, then you must also know that if you annoy the environment, it will can't, of course, it will not fight you, it will not quarrel with you, but it will address you in the way possible that you can never even imagine that this person has been sleeping but is also awake. So that is my contribution on this regard.
Thank you very much for this great show. It has been an honor hosting it. You've told us what is on ground. You've given us solutions, and I know people are listening, and I hope that these solutions that we have provided here translate into tangible solutions on ground, and I hope they are taken on and implemented. We really need sustainable solutions to the environmental disasters that keep happening in Mbale, in Eastern region, and actually in Kasese, among other places. We have to act now, because anything with the environment actually needs urgent action, because as we know, any day lost is catastrophic to tomorrow. So thank you very much, dear panelists. Thank you, Center for Constitutional Governance and Civic Space TV, for bringing this show together. I thank you. I've been your host, Martin Musiime. Thank you to our panelists, conversationists, and I wish you a great week. Thank you.